City of Beijing here, the capital of the People's Republic of China with all of its famous monuments, and I'm delighted to say bathed in blue skies today as we go out onto day 4 of the 5-day Tour of Beijing, the last of the World Tour races for the 2014 season. I'm Phil Liggett and welcome back. Well, it's a decisive day today in this race. Tomorrow we'll see plenty of the Bird's Nest there, which was the Olympic Stadium back in 2008, because that is where the final stage will finish, and all of these iconic sites around the city's capital will be seen as well. But for the moment we stay out of town, because today we're heading to Mentougou. We'll see the Great Wall of China in the distance, as well as we come down to what we call the Queen stage of the race. This 157 kilometers, and it involves a first category climb to bring us right up to the finishing line at Yanqing mountain. It's going to be a duo battle for sure. Last year it was the decisive stage of this race, the stage being won by Yanqing, who went on the next day to be crowned the champion. Not the case this time around though, because he lost 18 minutes on the first day of this race, so now eyes will go elsewhere, perhaps to the runner-up last year, Dan Martin, who sits in this race in 21st place, only 11 seconds off the race lead, currently held for the last 2 days by BMC Belgian Philippe Gilbert. Well, as we join the pictures here, 23.7 kilometers. This is the story of yesterday, the breakaway getting away early on, and Michael Golash, the Polish rider, a teammate here of Julien Alaphilippe, who was feeling the pace at 23 kilometers to go, was taking a commanding lead in the King of the Mountains competition. And so far today, although he hasn't scored any points, he is now strengthening his position at the top. There is a breakaway, and we'll catch up with that breakaway very shortly. This is how it all came down to the finish yesterday, as the riders battled away from the last climb, generally downhill. It was a very high-speed approach to the finish, rapid movements by the riders as they headed towards the Zhangjiakou temple in the Zhangjiakou, and the crucial corner was still ahead. It's a right-hand sweeper to bring them into the last 500 meters of the day. A number of riders had come back together. The sprinters were all there. As they lined up for the finish, the rider in second place, Caleb Ewan, was left to fry a little bit before he could make his move, and the rush was on his shoulder, but none of those riders would win. Watch the left of the pictures. A rider in blue makes a late run for the line, and with a terrific turn of speed, Tyler Farrar, the American on the Garment Sharp team, comes clear for his first win in 1 year, and that was a well taken victory as well, and he was delighted, thanking his teammate Steele von Hoff there for the assistance in the run-in to the finish. Big moment for Tyler Farrar, taking the lead as well in the green jersey, the second most important competition in the Tour of Beijing, which is for the most consistent daily finisher, and that's the points jersey. You can see it being worn down there by Janssen van Rensburg, who didn't get placed, and he lost that jersey to Tyler Farrar. But Farrar's a sprinter. He won't be the man coming up the mountain in first place today. He knows that. Tomorrow, when this race finishes in the shadow of the Bird's Nest, that's where he'll be looking for a chance to win again. But for the moment, he was the winner ahead of Luka Metjek, who got second place. He won the first day. Nicholas Mace also sprinting very well, the Belgian there finishing third. But this was the return of Tyler Farrar for sure. Overall though, the red jersey staying on the shoulders of Philippe Gilbert for a second day. He finished with that leading group, of course. Reinhard Janssen van Rensburg holding second. The top 5 riders unchanged as at the start of that day. And that's the way they've gone off this morning as well. Just split by 11 seconds, the top 24 riders in the race. Gilbert knows the hill, well, doesn't know the hill, but he's been told it's 12 kilometers long to the finishing line today. Some riders have told him it's not steep, others say it's very hard. I can tell you it's quite a hard climb. Let's have a look at the full route that they faced today. A total distance of 157, starting from what has become this week our traditional start point in Yanqing. And then we go into the mountains very quickly. We've covered the first mountain, and the first 2 sprints are now behind us. And we start to go south as we get closer to the city of Beijing. We're about just over an hour and a half away now from the center of the city of Beijing. But all important that this is a mountain top finish, introduced into this race 1 year ago and gave us a great finale. So the riders signing in today, 48 hours distance, all the complaints about the poor weather and the smog for unhealth, riding restrictions. The riders weren't happy, and Philippe Gilbert was one of the main protagonists about that. But the weather's changed completely. It's a distant memory. Blue skies, beautiful day, and we're going to be treated to some stunning scenery to the north and northwest of Beijing.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please.
So signing in there was Farah, the winner yesterday, in his green jersey, being interviewed at the start this morning in Yanqing. But I can tell you already, just as Farah did yesterday to get the lead, Mechik has got the lead back in that green jersey competition because he won the first sprint of the day after 12 kilometers. And so going into the last part of this race today, it's Mechik now who holds a 1-point lead in that green jersey competition. It scored at 2 points along the route and also at the finishing line for the green jersey. A lot of people saying that man, Rigoberto Urán, is looking for victory today on the mountain. We'll see. Once we start the climb, 20 kilometers, we enter the park, and then the last 12 kilometers are when the hill starts to bite. It's a long, steady drag, and it's on beautiful road surfaces as well. The view from the top is stunning. We can expect Rui Costa also to try today. The Lampre rider finished 4th last year. Overall, currently sits in 3rd place. He's only 7 seconds off the red jersey of Philippe Gilbert. So there's going to be a lot of riders feeling this could be their day. Giant Shimano still have Reini Jonsson van Rensburg as their man. He's 5 seconds off the red jersey. He might find the finishing climb just a little bit too difficult. There's last year's winner signing in the wrong place. They're trying to nod him in, push him into number 1. That's where he is. And that is Benya Intausti. Won't be winning this time because he's lost 18 minutes on day 1. Adam Hansen on the far right there, picking up his bike because we're underway. This has all happened earlier today, about two hours or so ago. The riders getting away and heading to the first couple of sprints along the way. We'll catch you up to date with those results very shortly. And they've gone over the first category climb as well. This is a stunningly beautiful area here. Home, of course, of the Great Wall of China, at least a small portion of it, which is easily visited here from the city of Beijing, and is a great tourist attraction, of course, the #1 tourist attraction in all of China. Shimmering blue lakes, plenty of water here, plenty of trees, nearly 80% coverage is either water or forest. In the high points, of course, the snow does fall. Beijing these days, maybe you blame it on global warming or whatever, it doesn't quite get the snowy days of the years gone by. Yanqing is, we're very close to Yanqing when we finish today. We'll be going past the town as we go back into Beijing tonight, ready for the final stage tomorrow from Tiananmen Square to the Bird's Nest, which was the stadium of the main stadium of the Olympic Games in 2008. As always, the Chinese have a beautiful country here which they're anxious to show off to the world, and there's plenty of tourists around at the moment, even if the Tour of Beijing is causing somewhat of a little disrupted journey for them because the roads around the race route are all closed. And now we're going to go through Mentogo. Down the bottom in the valley is the big city, which is really being modernized at the moment, and then we go through there and up the mountain now to finish right up into the top. This is a protected park area here and the biggest one in China. And now we can bring you to the action and bring you right up to date. These are the 4 leaders who got away around about 20 kilometers into the day, and in the breakaway is Julien Vermont, the rider number 97 there, second, third from the in the line. Guillaume Boivin, the Canadian on Cannondale, there he is, setting the pace. He's won the only climb we've had so far. Boris Valle is also here. He's number 86 at the back having a drink for Lotto Belisol, and the other rider is Graham Brown, the Australian, on the Dutch Belkin squad. And Graham in a breakaway here, setting the pace up there at the front at the moment. Double gold medalist in the years gone by in the Olympic Games. Graham Brown is a great track rider before he's become a very established road racing cyclist. So that's our four hopefuls of the day, if you like, getting away early on. None of these riders, they've got to keep a close eye on one man, and that's Julien Vermont, who's on the front just now, the Belgian rider from Amiga Pharma Quickstep. This is a definite plan by Amiga Pharma Quickstep. They actually said to me last night, when I said, "You rode well today," he said, the manager said, "Wait till you see us ride tomorrow." So clearly they do have a plan, and they're playing their first card with this breakaway by Julien Vermont. He's only 21 seconds off the race lead, and obviously at the moment, and we'll get the time gap to you as soon as we know it ourselves, we believe it's just over 4 minutes, and so therefore Julien Vermont is the race leader virtual. 100 meters before the top of this second category climb, which will take us through 75 kilometers covered today of the 157, so there's still plenty of hills lying ahead, and of course the last climb is all uphill. It's the only mountaintop finish. There's the peloton further down the slopes of this climb. Zhangjiakou is the name, and in second category, well, Guillaume Boivin won the first category climb and got 12 points for that, and that was a good thing for Michael Golash back in the peloton, the new leader in the King of the Mountains, because they're the first points that Boivin has earned, and he would have to win every climb and the finish itself if he were to win the King of the Mountains. I think that's a little bit too much to expect, and so it's all good news at the moment for the Polish rider Golash. Philippe Gilbert's team, BMC, setting the pace. Absolutely normal tactics for the man who is the race leader, and his team do all of the brunt of the early work to try and keep the breakaways under control. And you can see the autumn tints today are spectacular, and wait till you see them on the last mountain, they're stunning. You can actually see the top of the climb from about 4 kilometers out from the finish, but it's a long way around the mountain to get to it. Graham Brown got a gold medal in Athens in 2004 in the Olympic Games at team pursuit, and I remember on that occasion he set the world record with his 3 teammates, getting well inside the 4-minute target of those days, 3 minutes and 56.610 seconds he did. He also then got up with Stuart O'Grady in the 2-man Madison race a few days later, and they won gold in that as well. So back in 2004 in Athens, Graham Brown was an absolute Australian superstar. You can also join in with the conversation on Twitter. That's hashtag TOB2014 if you want to chat among yourselves on Twitter. Enjoy that. Well, this beautiful, what is a state park here, totally protected, its fauna and flora. Now you're seeing the start of the tints here. This isn't the start of the last climb though. There's still something, well, still a pretty long way out there. 3:36, that's the first reliable check I think we've had. So they have come down. They were timed at over 4 minutes a short while ago. Brown dropping back to the team car. Progress is what you would expect at this stage of the race. These 4 riders aren't exactly being actively hunted down. There are a number of riders. You can throw a lot of names around to suggest who will win this race, but they're certainly going to have to hit each other pretty hard, and there are 24 of them who could do it on the right day. So there's going to be a real attacking race before the end today. It's going to be a show on the last climb for sure. Still Julien Vermont on the front. Distinguished himself this year with a very, very nice stage win in the Tour of Britain in the UK, and continued the incredible performances of his team this year. Well, Philippe Gilbert certainly wasn't saying he was going to lose the race after he kept his race lead yesterday. On the contrary, he's not a pure climber, but he's a very strong cyclist, and the way they're climbing these mountains over these past 2 days, they're on very good roads. The whole area seems to have been totally resurfaced for the race, so that makes the roads a lot less arduous for sure, and they've been climbing them very quickly, and they haven't been getting rid of the sprinters, which is an indication that perhaps a strong rider might well hold his own on what will certainly be the battle on the last climb today. BMC bringing the World Tour series to a close with distinction. They're having a very, very good run, and it's interesting to note now, and this is a different tactic, the boys in blue behind, including the rider in the green jersey, because that's Tyler Farrar, are working now for one rider, Dan Martin, who was second last year. And when Farrar won the stage, he says, well, I've done my bit yesterday. He says, now maybe tomorrow he will do his, and he is Dan Martin. And Dan Martin is looking now to keep this race reasonably in close contact until the final showdown on that last climb. There'll be no heroic early attacks, I would doubt it very much. The tall rider behind the rider in green is Ryder Hagedal, the Canadian rider on the squad, who is the only Canadian to have won the Giro d'Italia. Comes from Vancouver. So no big rush in that peloton, just as we expect. High speed, steady pacing. Once we're over the second cat climb and with the leaders, so Wavan continues to score at the top of the climb. The riders are still climbing the second category climb here. Next one followed is, he's on course at the moment to sweep the board, just as Golash almost did yesterday, but didn't win the last climb of the day. They caught him. But Wavan has now scored 20 points on the 2 climbs, but he does need to win every climb, which includes the last climb of the day. So I still think that's a pretty tall order. As we look at the leaders' names here, the order over the climb up front was Boivin, Vermont, Boris Valle and Graham Brown. Just onto the lower slopes now of the 3rd category climb of the day. Well, the good news, by the way, won that first climb. Golash was best of the rest. From the front of the peloton, he got himself a single point. That might be the most valuable point he's got all week in the mountains, because it's now making it virtually impossible for Boivin. Not impossible if he won the stage, because he'd pick up 12 points in the mountains by winning the stage, and that would still give him the title. But Golash is doing his best. There's 3 serious races for the all the 3 main categories this year, because the red jersey for race lead is very much up for grabs today by the riders racing up to the finishing line, especially with 11 seconds covering 24 riders, and there's a 10-second bonus for the first man to win the day. So you can soon work that one out. And in the mountains competition, I've highlighted the battle of Golash and keeping a close eye on Boivin in the lead. And in the points race, well, the green jersey there of Farrar, which you can see, he's now gone 1 point behind Luka Mecic, and that's going to go down to the climb as well, although neither of those riders, I think we can safely say, will feature in the points today. So that competition will go down to the line tomorrow on the final stage. It's hard to imagine that by car we're only about an hour and 3/4 away from downtown Beijing, with its permanent traffic jam of vehicles on the ring roads, and here total tranquility. The weather has dawned sunny but chilly. It was only about 6 degrees Celsius at the start of the day. It's warmed up. It's now kicking in around 12 to 13. There's a feeling of a little bit of ice in the air, but you can see by the riders, they're riding in summer racing gear here. No arm warmers. They're happy with the conditions. Graham Brown setting the trend at the front. Julian Vermont of Omega Pharma Quickstep going through. He's only ever won 3 professional races, but he's a very strong rider on a very successful team from Belgium. Boris Valle is the rider in the red jersey. Only 21 years of age. I think he ranks about the 6th or the 7th youngest rider in the race. And now moving into the big time. And the rider at the back, Guillaume Boivin, I think he's been a bit of a victim of the merger of Garmin Sharp and Cannondale next year, because he will leave the team at the end of this season. He'll go to the Optum team presented by Kelly Benefit Strategies, which is an American-based team. They will be racing in Europe though, so, and if they get the invitations, of course, Asia too, and they will be looking for the experience built by Guillaume Boivin there. Well, the Peloton at this moment in time, I would think, are losing a little bit of time here. There's no real urgency when they pack like that. They know the showdown is the last 20 kilometers of the stage today. They're going to be nervous. The presence of Julien Vermont in that breakaway will cause some concern, because at 21 seconds off red, they can't allow him to run too far. If they make an absolute miscalculation and don't catch him, then of course he'll win the race tomorrow. It's safe to say that whoever gets the lead tonight shouldn't have any problems retaining the lead tomorrow. It's a very flat race. There's no opportunity to gain time. And so it's going to be a day for the sprinters for sure tomorrow. Tyler Farrer in the green jersey riding at the front purely for his man Dan Martin, who is the blue jersey, just obscured now. This is just a nice steady tempo, with every respect to Tyler Farrer there. He's not a great climber, and here he is, third man in the race up the front. So that's a good indication that this pressure is not absolutely on with the peloton. Lamprey also have a candidate there that everybody is starting to take note of, and that's last year's World Road Race champion Rui Costa, because he finished 4th in this race, which included the finishing climb that's coming later today overall, and he's now poised in 3rd position. So Dan Martin is going to keep a very close eye on him. He cross-swordsed him on the climb a year ago, and he's going to have to do it again this year. These 4 riders just enjoying what is a mid-afternoon sunshine here now. Shadows are getting longer. Local times just after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Boris Valle, Lotto Belge, had some pretty good performances in his last 2 seasons as an under-23 rider. Basically the old amateur class. These days all cyclists are called elite. These are the most elite because these are World Tour teams, the F1 Formula 1 teams of cycle racing, if you like. These are the very best boys coming together on 17 teams of 8 riders in this particular instance. Beautiful rolling countryside. It leads to a high average speed, although early on today the race was going very quickly at the start. It got quite a way ahead of schedule. I think it's dropped back a little bit now. Still 53 kilometers to go. Turn of the pacemaking now by Boris Valet. No change at the back here. Still got two workhorses from Team BMC. Their job to just keep the pace steady. And that board is actually telling the riders that the gap to the leaders, with a bit of luck we might show it to us, but no, he won't. So we're telling you it's 2 minutes 39 seconds. The gap has come down quite a lot here now as they continue through the ripples. The third category climb, we didn't actually see them cross it, but Graham Brown, they didn't race for it. Graham Brown went over ahead of Mott, Valet and Boivin, and so the loss of 5 points for that now means that Boivin cannot win the King of the Mountains competition, so Golash is looking fair for that. Three climbs is still to come. Team BMC will try to keep this race under control for as long as they possibly can. At the end of the day, Gilbert will have to answer to the attacks he does expect. And whether he's got the acceleration of some of these climbers remains to be seen. But Dan Martin attacked just about everybody last year, and only one rider he couldn't get rid of and in the end couldn't hold on to, and that was the man who won, Benya Intausti. He's not a challenger this year though. It's a while since I've seen Graham Brown in an escape group like this, especially through the hills. Graham would be the first to tell you he's not a very good climber, but he is a very good teammate and very much a hard worker. He's often the lead out man, the last man to try and deliver the top sprinter of the day to the line. In this race it's Moreno Hofland who is the recognised sprinter on Team Belgian. This is the back of the race here, and the Lotto boys, it's Chris Bockmans, who is looking like he's the water bottle carrier down there at the moment for the Lotto Belisol team. Ricardo Zoidl at the back, the champion of Austria. Shouldn't be afraid of hills where he comes from. Beautiful country Austria is. And Lachlan Morton, our old friend at the back here, we often see him at the back collecting water bottles for the team. He's on the Garmin Sharp Swad, and that's just what he's doing again by the look of it there. Looking for his team car. The team cars are linked by radio, and the referee's car, which is the one with the lights on top there, he will have radioed that that rider wants a drink, so they'll be getting it ready for them. Just before we start the last climb of the day, we do have a second category climb, Dongfang Hong, which comes about 20 miles or 32 kilometers from the finish. This is the fourth day of racing. It's a 5-day race if you're just joining our coverage of the week. And on the first day it was Luka Mecic who won in a sprint finish. And then on the second day, because of poor quality air, and the smog was down early in the morning, although ironically it blew away and there was absolutely no reason not to have raced the full distance, but at the time the decision was made to take 36 kilometers off the race route, the riders finishing on the last small climb of the day, and then they came down to the finishing line in convoy into Yanqing for the prize presentation. As a result of that, Philippe Gilbert won the small climb. It should have been for the sprinters, but it wasn't in the end, and Gilbert took the race lead. Yesterday we saw Gilbert finish safely in the main field at the front, and as a result kept his race lead, and today he now defends 11 seconds maximum over 24 riders in the race. Just having a look at Carsten Kruen here, number 156. He was in the breakaway a long way yesterday. When this race started, he was telling us it was his last race as a professional, but I think he's feeling so good and he's enjoying his time here by the look of it. He's now hesitating. He said it may not be. Approaching 3 minutes. These long, sweeping, steady climbs, they don't seem to trouble the riders as long as they ride them at a reasonably quick tempo without really hurting that pack, because no sign of riders being dropped off the back. That won't be the case on the last climb, I can assure you. It's not just a battle for first to the top of the mountain, really, it's a battle for who wins this race tomorrow. That's why we can expect a lot of riders to attack. Looks as though Julien Vermont applying a little bit of pressure at the front there as they all scramble off that corner. Guillaume Boivin, the Canadian, on his back wheel. Boris Valle, the man in red, and for the moment at the back is the former Olympic champion Graham Brown. Lives over in Perth in Australia, Graham Brown, when he's not in Europe with the team. Well, as we look down the valley here and we get high, let's quickly run through the sprints in the King of the Mountain. The opening sprint, important for Luka Mecic. He's got the lead back in the green jersey with that 5 points there. Dan Limpy second. Steele van Hoff tried to break it up for his teammate Tyler Farrar, but it didn't work out. He got third. The second sprint, which came before any climbs, and the breakaway was formed now. So the 4 riders we're seeing in the lead are here. Julien Vermont getting the sprint ahead of Valle, Brown and Boivin. Then we got on to the climbs, and it was the first climb, as a first category climb, carrying 12 points. Boivin first over the top from the same 4 riders, and the peloton clearly didn't race it because Rick Zabel, who's a sprinter, went over best of the rest in 5th place. King of the Mountains number 2, 75 kilometers done. Graham Brown taking this one ahead of Boivin and Vermont and Valle, and Mikhail Golash snatching a point there. And the third King of the Mountains at 94 was Boivin, Brown, Vermont and Valle. And the 4th King of the Mountains, again the same 4, they're still clear of course, Vermont, Valle, Brown and Boivin, and only the 4 riders scoring points. Nothing at the back for the field on a short climb of 3rd category rankings, and all this running now very much in the favour of Mikhail Golash of Poland and Omega Pharma Quickstep. Looks like sealing that King of the Mountains challenge today. No mountains, no hills tomorrow, dead flat as we race into the Olympic Park. Peloton now absolutely flying down this super descent for them. No risks being taken. In fact, the 2 boys from BMC, the tandem at the front here, stretching it, using the descent to try and cause a reaction from the field as the gap continues to close down. 2 climbs left. We're heading on to the second category climb, which we top out just 32 kilometers from the finish. The finishing climb sits at around about 1100 meters above sea level. So it's not huge by standards, but it's a very short journey to the summit of around about, the last 10 kilometers are certainly the toughest, but it goes up steadily from about 12 kilometers. Good show of determination by the American BMC team here for Philippe Gilbert. He's wearing a red jersey. You can pick him out with difficulty, I'm afraid, because it's very similar to his team colours, but he has no black on the shoulders, on the epaulette area. He's pure red. Well, it's a perfect day to be a helicopter pilot and to photograph the Tour of Beijing, that's for sure, because they are really seeing some stunning views around these hills to the north and northwest of Beijing. It's flying at about 1500 feet above the riders at the moment. Helicopter pilots have to be very conscious of the downdrafts from the rotor blades, of course, so they're not too popular with the cyclists if they start blowing them around. There'll be a tenseness in the bunch. They know what's coming. The second category climb indicates the category climbs are 1, 2, 3 and 4. Number 1 is the steepest, down to 4, which is the shallowest. So this second category climb coming up could be a nice little springboard, but they do race onto very flat road before we start the final climb up to the finish as we enter the park itself of Yanqing. Very interesting to note though that the Lamprey team are taking second team in the line, and that's a clear indication that Rui Costa is up for the fight today. And right behind the Lamprey team, the boys in blue, Dan Martin. So expect to see Martin and Costa going head to head when the opportunity comes on that climb. Sorry about a little bit of the picture freeze. Happens when we get below the signal frequencies in these hills. Like a giant centipede, doesn't it? Snaking its way around the mountain here in a total line just now. Running downhill still. These are the 4 riders. Boivin is the rider currently setting the pace at the front. The sweeper at the back is Graham Brown. Good show of strength by Guillaume Boivin here. He rode a couple of Grand Tours during his career with Cannondale. Now he's returning to an American-based team in Optum. Still the teammates of Philippe Gilbert, who's noticeably not among them here. He's gone further down the pack. It's their job to set the pace. About just as low as we're going to get before we start climbing the hills again at this minute. Well, you can't complain about the standard of the organisation in this race. It's superb. once away from the town, so there are not a great variety of roads. So in this particular race, and yesterday as well, I think we've seen some of the nicest parts of northern China, just below the Mongolian plateau. Living in hope. We were approaching 3 minutes last time I had a time check, and these boys just continuing to push on. Big long turn being done by the Canadian Weber, quite happy to set the pace. The other three take a breather. Graham Brown not too bothered to stay last man. This is meanwhile about 3 minutes down, maybe less now. The four workhorses on Team BMC, followed by almost the whole team of Lamprey there. Brown feeling the heat now, taking off his full arm warmers for the day. Now it's the young man at the front, 21 years of age, Boris Valle. He sits nearly 24 minutes behind overall. It's not important at his stage of career development, completing his first season with Lotto Belisol. A long career ahead of him at 21. Down below the railroad track, back into Beijing. And by the year 2017, the area will be enlivened by a high-speed rail link, moving the ski resorts where we started 3 days ago that much closer to the city. Inside 40 kilometers, not too far away from the second category climb. Once we swing away from the village, we'll be heading up Dongfeng Hong. Carlos Bentancur, the rider there with the 14 on his back, the long hair. Colombian had a tentative attack towards the finish yesterday. Didn't work out, but it was nice to see him on the move again. And there's Rigoberto Urán on the far side, 91. Two people saying he's the man to win the race. He's going to move forward from that position on the next climb, I would think, before we get to the last hill of the day. Dan Craven, the easiest man to pick out with his full facial beard, which he's grown this year. The wild man of Namibia. There couldn't be a more gently spoken person in the world of professional cycling. And the full-length train going down, I presume towards Beijing at the moment. We've gone round in circles. I'm not too sure which way we're facing in the mountains just now. Switch at the front. Graham Brown come up now to do a little bit of work. 35 years of age. Graham Brown now has been a pro for a long time. This will be his 15th professional season, I think. Still no pressure at the back, as the riders now prepare for what is the last 37 kilometers of the day. And as you can see, the sun in certain places is already beginning to come down in the sky. And dropping behind the mountain where I'm commentating from, up at the finish line as well. And once the sun does go down, I think the chill air might come in too. Well, the Lamprey boys advertising the fact they've got the man for the job in Rui Costa. That's why Dan Martin's team has taken second order behind those pink-sleeved riders. And it looks as though Team Katusha are also moving themselves back into the fight now. They have Sergei Chenetsky sitting in 8th place overall. And the only other rider, and I don't think it'll be too possible, but Vladimir Gusev is in the top 26 riders, 21 seconds behind overall. It's been a while since Gusev has done a really good performance for himself. Constant pacemaking, pattern unchanging at the front. That's the Katusha boys on the far side of the pink jersey. There is the red jersey there and he's right behind TJ Van Garden of Philippe Gilbert. So he's making sure he's just sitting off the pacemaking, keeping out the way, but watching in a perfect position to keep an eye on Dan Martin and Rui Costa. Still sat here at the back though, Rigoberto Urán. A lot of riders in front of him, so he's got to be careful if things start to move at the front. Now it's the turn of Boris Valle to set the pace for Lotto. Not too sure about Graham Brown. He's moved up in 2nd place there. Has this shaking of his head. So whether he's talking to himself there, actually, it might be just the face he's pulling. He won't be enjoying these climbs, and we must be very close to starting the second climb. In fact, there we are. So we're on to the penultimate climb of the race, not just of the day. It's a second category climb, and they're still clear. And our goods train, which seems to be enormous in length, is now reaching the peloton. Still no determined move here. This will go right to the last climb, I'm sure. And that's a gamble for them with Julian Vermont up front. There is almost the winner of the King of the Mountains, Mikhail Golash. Technically, he could lose it, but the combination now I think is getting more and more difficult to form because those 4 riders up front are no longer a worry to him, but they're taking the points that matter to others. I think Golash can start to think of at least a celebration tomorrow afternoon as the King of the Mountains. As far as I know, that'll be his first ever title as King of the Mountains. Now is Valle beginning to feel the pace here. He's letting a gap on that wheel. Vermont is likely to be the strongest of these 4 and is likely to try and go alone. He has got the advantage of 21 seconds to be the best placed rider in the breakaway. When he won his stage it was the 6th day of the Tour of Britain in Great Britain in September. He was the remnants of a breakaway and he showed terrific skill by going off on his own and holding the peloton off and winning the day. I'm sure he's thinking about it. Dan Craven is having a spot of lunch before the hills start. Comes from not far away from the deserts of Namibia, Dan, and his parents still live there, very much so. They've got a beautiful place that He has a lot of wildlife, African wildlife, not far from his back door. Spent a little bit of his time in London, but he loves Africa. And he's had a great season. First season with a World Tour team, and he rode his first World Tour a few weeks ago, the 3-week Vuelta a España, the Tour of Spain. And I'm quite sure Mum is watching these pictures because they are being broadcast to African television as well, so she can keep a close eye on Sundan, see what he's doing for a living right now. Got Brabant lightening the load of his water bottle there. Julien Vermont is turning the screw. Teammate, remember, of Golash, so while he's taking points, he's saving his teammate at the same time. And this is the penultimate climb now of the second category climb before we just have the one first category to come. We top out at 32 to go, 32.5, and it looks as though Graham Brown, who is nodding his head, doesn't like the pace being set on this climb now. Now it's when you want to cheer him on really and get him over the top of this climb, because then he would get himself to the bottom of the finishing climb and he could just ride up it on his way home. But I think Graham Brown, enough is enough for him. Not a good time to ask him for a smile, as it looks as though Graham drops away. Olympic champion in the velodromes on the small 250-meter board tracks, steeply banked. This is a very different steeply banked cycling track here in Beijing in the road race. Passive face of Julien Vermont and Guillaume Boivin, and the youngster, 21 years of age, Boris Valle, enjoying his first breakaway in a World Tour race. Just over a kilometre to the top of the climb. Should see the sign pretty shortly, if we're all in agreement with the GPS system. The gap there now 3:17, so they're not closing in at any great speed. This is going to ensure a real battle on the last climb, because don't forget, if Julien Vermont finishes only 11 seconds in front of the main field and wins, he gets a 10-second bonus. That would make him the likely winner of the Tour tomorrow when we finish in the centre of the city of Beijing. Still BMC are being made to do all of the pacemaking. Few are willing to help. That's not surprising. If you take the race lead, you're expected to do the work. Well, it's not all plain sailing at the back of the race now. This hill is beginning to hurt some of these riders. Push them down the field a little bit. Rather a lot of green jerseys from Team Europe car have come to the rear of the peloton. Now this is good pressure here from Julien Vermont. He might be hurting Boris Valle at the back as well. And this is how he got away in the Tour of Britain and won the day. He's very happy now to keep the pressure on himself. He's not looking for any help just now. Boivin follows him, so does Vermont. Very long reach, straight back on the style there of Valle. Conscious acceleration from Team BMC as well here, and I think this might well start to string out the peloton at the back. Rui Costa going through, Dan Martin being moved up here by his team. Nathan Haas is the first rider in the light blue. Ryder Heyerdahl, Steele von Hoff, the other two riders in light blue. Ricardo Zoidl, just to the right of our picture there, was at the back early. He's now moved right up towards the front, the champion of Austria. The terrain swinging perhaps a little more in his favour. This is now a real push up here. This is much, much quicker. The softener before the descent to flat roads and then the climb itself to the finishing line. Yep, Vermont is really keeping the pressure on here too. The other two, I think, are getting themselves into a little bit of difficulty. I haven't seen the kilometre to go, but we can't be far from the summit of the climb. Red jersey of Philippe Gilbert is in the front right of our picture now. Still very close to Dan Martin. Everybody's sensing here that there is a definite change of instinct in the peloton. This is a real hard push by the group now. Martin has moved up. They won't be expecting an attack at this point, and that might be a good reason to have one. Inside 3 minutes. Well, these boys from Team BMC, I don't know how long they can keep this up before they'll have to give best, but they'll do it for as long as they can. Garmin Sharp team of Dan Martin pushing up on the right up towards the shoulder of Rui Costa, and his riders in pink for Lamprey. Twisting our way up towards the summit. 32 kilometers left to ride. The leaders should have gone over the top, but we may be slightly out on the GPS. Peloton being pulled right out now. The riders at the back will start to be opening the door, I think. The leaders are over the top here. I'm quite sure the first man over it too is Julien Vermont. Guava, Valle, probably in that order. That seems to be the way they've climbed the mountain. Now we're swinging right down to basement level before we get across to the park at Miaofeng and begin the climb up to the finish. Valle really struggling to hold on to Vermont now. He's doing all of the driving here. He's in a tremendous position, but he's also forcing the race to chase him, and that's another plan by Omega Pharma Quickstep. They'll sent him up the road there. A, to defend for Golash, his teammate in the King of the Mountains, and B, of course, to see what might happen. And it's got to pull the race along. He cannot be allowed to run clear. 2:34. Just sat at the back here now is David Apollonio, the Italian on the French AG2R squad. It's noticeable now too that the third man from the end is Tyler Farrer in that green jersey, a points leader, which he's lost the lead in at the moment. Still a chance to regain it and win it tomorrow on the final stage. He missed out on the first sprint, and we could well see the jersey now handed back to Metzik at the finish today. Change of order at the front there now as Brabant starts to move. And the sun peeping on the autumn tints, just coming over the edge of the mountain. In fact, it's going down now. Riders will be in and out of the shadows. That'll make a very tense peloton. And you see all these shadows on the road. And that looks like Brown has just been swept up here, so it didn't take them that long. So Graham Brown caught in the pack. 3 riders are clear. He's gone back pretty swiftly there, about 2.5 minutes to cross. Everybody coming down from the last climb out on the course before we go on to the finishing climb of the race. It is a lovely climb if you're a climber, of course. You can see the finish some 4 kilometers or so from the summit, where you'll see the temple on the top. Very determined look on the youngster here. He's not in intention of letting the race catch up by surrendering, that's for sure. This would be a fairly long descent, this, because we do go down a long way before we start the final climb at the entry to the Maofeng Mountain Park itself. Very easy to recognise. You go through a big Chinese arch and past a little number of fruit stalls. And Vermont very anxious to push on here. Going back up to the front. Peloton now being pulled out over quite a few seconds. They'll concertina back, but they're just pushing on here. Can they go down that little bit quicker than those 3 up front? Well, we're looking at speeds of 70, 75 kilometers an hour on descents like this. The roads are very, very good. Perfect racing roads. You have to watch out though for the odd twister, which really does go back on itself. Now at the rear of the peloton here, looks as though 1 or 2 riders have been caught out on the descent. There's a giant Shimano rider, and it's the Chinese rider Ji Sheng. I wouldn't expect to see him in this position, so I suspect he's been caught at the back of the cars, but he's straight back up to the bunch. Top Chinese rider over the years that we've held the Tour of Beijing. This is the 4th. Ji Sheng is always been is the highest place finisher, which came last year. The passive face of Julian Vermont here, 25 years of age, 4 years older than the youngster at the back. Well, when you get a shot like this, it looks visibly as though that peloton is moving quicker. 2:26. That's a good lead at this stage of the race because of the climb to come. I suspect it won't be enough because we're anticipating a major implosion of the peloton as soon as this climb really does start, which is around about the 11th, 12th kilometre from the finish. It doesn't actually climb too much when we go through the arch onto the mountain road for a couple of kilometres. Then it starts and gradually gets steeper. Not a bad time trial rider against the watch either. Won the bronze medal last year in his national championships in Belgium. Well, it does appear, once they're off the mountain, the other two riders are quite prepared to work with Julien Vermont and give everything they can. Just have a look at the result of that mountain. It was Vermont, Boivin Vallée, as we saw them on the climb go over the top. Graham Brown just hung on to stay fourth, and Dominique Nertz, the workhorse on Team BMC, at the front, going over in fifth place. That was the order of the King of the Mountains today. One more to come, and the finish awaits them at that line. Everybody massing at the front here now. Nobody wants to actually drive at the moment, apart from it looks as though we've got a little help from Garmin Sharp. It looks to me as though Tyler Farrar has come from the back. Once the mountains have gone, right back up to the front. He was in trouble yesterday on the mountains. He raced back to the group, and of course he won the stage. And it looks as though again he struggled a little bit up the climb, but he's willing to give all of his energy in the chase. This is Boivin getting an up-to-date situation from the team management on Cannondale. Well, Garmin Sharp have really changed this around now. They couldn't allow Julien Vermont to keep hold of this lead in excess of 2 minutes going to the last climb. It's a big ask. And Vermont could well hold his own, I think. I think he would probably leave the other two if he gets the climb alone. Then he would start to concentrate. So they're using Farrar to the last of his ability here. The fast man on the flat roads to drive this race as fast as he can for as long as he can. 25 kilometers to go. We start the enter the park at 20 kilometers to go. This is the town of Zhangjiakou. And already through and out are the leaders. They're heading up towards the turn, just about 3 kilometers away. Then, for the second year in succession, the Tour of Beijing is going to become a battle of Miafeng Mountain. Still holding 2:14. Not exactly running down. These boys are really trying to get to this mountain road without the peloton. Wander around the stark hillsides here, but it's to the other side before we see the actual climb itself. A little bit more vegetation on the climb. Well, this last couple of hours, this has been quite a hard race here. These riders haven't had a moment without the pressure being applied. There's a lot of concern by the presence of Vermont up front, and that was why, to try and protect this rider here, Rigoberto Urán, taking a drink. He's still sitting a long way down the peloton, doesn't seem too concerned. Second these past 2 years in the Giro d'Italia. Chance to reposition for Fabio Silvestre. Just gone through in the black. There's the King of the Mountains. Assured, virtually assured now of keeping that jersey tonight, and will win it tomorrow. Mikel Golash. Well, a little bit of a picture block there, so we'll go back down to our lead motorbike, out with the 3 front runners, the survivors of the 4-man breakaway, if you like. Boivin Vallée Vermont. French-speaking Canadian on the front here for Cannondale. Looks very secure there, very happy with the way things are going. Not desperate moments yet. A couple of kilometres from entering the park at the best. And Garmin Sharp now announcing the fact that they want Dan Martin to be the winner by the end of this day. So narrowly beaten. He lost the climb by 3 seconds a year ago to Insausti, who's in the race, but Insausti lost 18 minutes on day one, so he's not a challenger. He could still be a man up for the win though, if he's feeling he might have recovered. I have a feeling he's not in the same condition as he was last year. Well, they're certainly going to take Dan Martin to the foot of this climb at some speed, the peloton. He's got his whole team up there now. Katusha sitting off the flank on the right hand side. That's rather push the Lampre boys out of position. There's the entrance to the park, and we're heading up to the highest point of it now. A little while before we get going on the climb, 2 or 3 kilometres. There's the peloton, they're not far away, they're entering a tunnel there, so we can't go in there. So the 3 leaders are on the finishing climb of the day. Officially it hasn't started, we've just entered the park. Terrific riding by Tyler Farrell, being the perfect teammate here, using his last energy to keep the pressure on. Keep the pace high, because he knows that once the slope comes he's a goner for the day, and that's fine, he's done his job. In fact, he may be a goner right now, because he swung right off the front there to allow his other team to come, and Tyler is now going to just ride home to the finish. He's got just over 20k to go for the peloton. It's a strong team they've brought here, Garmin Sharp. They've had a very, very good season, but for 1 or 2 strokes of bad luck at the wrong time, they would have had an even better year this year. Not least the accident to Dan Martin in at the Giro d'Italia in the opening day. Drink for Julien Vermont, and no doubt a final time check there. That'll be it for the day now, inside the last 20 kilometres on the climb. Riders will be left alone to their own devices. There's the peloton racing in through the entry to the park as well. A lot of mountain bikers and ordinary cyclists riding up this climb this morning. It's a beautiful road to go for a bike ride to the summit. And there's trails as well, off-road. They're not really onto the climb yet, so they're still making the way. Well, they've had a pretty good run. They got away after about 15 kilometres into the race. They formed today, and they've had a lead, as far as we could work out, just over 4 minutes. They're still holding nearly 2 minutes of that as they run into the last 18 kilometres of the day. Now this is where Dan Martin is going to have his team give their all at high speed on the slopes, thin out the peloton. There are riders now, you can see at the back, beginning to hang on to the coattails of the strong. And then he's going to have to prove why he's the nominated leader of the team. He's going to have to go himself towards the end of the day. Time is what is the essence, and he knows he's going to be chased by people like Rui Costa. Philippe Gilbert will do his best to hang on in there. He hasn't written himself off as a likely winner of this race. And there's plenty of room for surprise as well. When you've got 24 riders split by only 11 seconds, there's a lot of distractions here. The road surface stays absolutely superb all the way up, which makes for a very fast ascent, but the road itself does get steeper, around about 8-9% towards the end. Big man there's Ryder Hesjedal, I think, wrestling with his arm warmers. He knows what's to come now. He's going to be a valuable ally to Martin, who sat on his back wheel. Rui Costa's got up behind Martin as well. Interesting to see the Movistar starting to intrude now. I don't think, well, they haven't got the winner as far as Benya Insausti goes. But why not have a go for the stage win and spoil that bit for everybody? He's lost far too much time this week. But there's always a chance of a move from Daya Quintana, the brother of Nero Quintana, or even Jesus Herrada, who currently sits in 5th place overall. He's the best young rider in the white jersey. 1:33. Little bit of advice from the cars now. Well, these bottles being handed out might result in a fine, because that's inside 20 kilometers to go now. I'm not sure they're allowed to do that unless the referees have made a distinction. Long sweeping bend, a complete horseshoe here as we change direction now. The wind is virtually non-existent. There's a wind measure up at the top by the temple up on top of the mountain. It's been blowing, hardly moving all day. Little chance to pop over the mountain and view the other side of the race down there. Still a little ground to make up for the peloton. Still waiting for the actual climb to start. Graham Brown now slipped to the rear of the peloton, but still hanging on in there for as long as he can. Just sitting on his teammate's back wheel there. That'll be Barry Marcus from Holland. I feel once the hill starts, will try to accelerate alone and just see what he can do. They're actually bringing Dan Martin to the boiling point here. All of his team giving everything they've got left. Martin is the far right of all of the blue jerseys we're looking at, and he's got the boys from Lamprey lining right up behind him. They know exactly what he's planning to do. To see the team of Française des Jeux, FDJ, moving their riders up on the right hand side of the race as well. They've been very prominent throughout in this Tour of Beijing this year, but they don't have a real candidate for overall victory unless Jeremy Roy, our first day contender, is feeling rather frisky today. He's still only 21 seconds off the race lead. Vermont anxious to keep the pressure on. If he can't win the race, he's going to prove a very determined distraction to the other riders. Soften the way perhaps for an attack from Rigoberto Urán. .119 coming down, but not that quickly. 12.2 kilometers. The lower slopes have just begun. Tyler Farrer here has gone to the back of the bunch again now, but still hanging on despite of all of his efforts. He wants to stay there as long as he can. The winner yesterday. He's chosen the wheel now of Barry Marcus. Just wondering what happened to Graham Brown. Maybe a bit further back there. Guillaume pushing on at the front here. A little bit more sustenance for Vermont. Just starting to feel now the slopes beginning to bite. They are gently rising just at this minute in time. Still tuck in to the left there. Couldn't quite see him, but I think it was Philippe Gilbert, not too far away from the protagonist we expect. Far red jerseys are the Lotto team, and quite difficult to pick out from Gilbert himself. Oh, this looks as though we're looking at the back of the race now, and Graham Brown deciding now, having been in the lead all day, it's time to just ride home to the finish. He left himself about 14 kilometers to climb to the finishing line. No problems by being outside the time limit today, so he'll be happy enough with his job today. He's done a good job out front. Now it's up to the riders on his team to see what they can do. But this, remember now, is the battle of the week. By the top of this mountain, the man that pulls on the red jersey of race leader will win the Tour tomorrow in Beijing. I think it's safe to say that. There are no hills tomorrow. It's always a race for the sprinters, and the job of the red jersey is to stay out of trouble and ride home to the finish. Now Julien Vermont still got a lot of energy there and still pushes those pedals around with plenty of punch, and that's hurting Boivin this time. The gap is stretching open. It's really tough to close it down, and this is where Vermont I think is going to go. I think he's just gone. It was to be anticipated. This is exactly how he won his stage of the Tour of Britain, eventually by himself. He left all of his breakaway behind, but this could win him the race if he were to win today. 21 seconds his deficit overnight, and another great tactical card by his team, Omega Pharma Quickstep. He's got to give it his best shot, but he's gone about 13 kilometers to go. A 10-second win bonus means he needs to win by 11 seconds. That is still possible, although once the others start the in battle, it's amazing how quickly they'll close it down. There's the peloton, lower down the slopes. You can just see the top right of our picture, the lonely figure of the breakaway. That's the gap. They're saying it's 45 seconds now. This is a group being detached, so too with them is Tyler Farrer here. He'll shortly find himself in the company perhaps of Graham Brown. Jens Maurice, the tallest and indeed the heaviest non-climber of Orica Green Edge, he's gone off the group as well there. Still holding on to 45 seconds. He needs to finish 11 seconds ahead. It's unlikely, but you never know. He's got to keep trying. He can't possibly not. The climb gets harder. Unfortunately for Vermont, it doesn't. It does kick a little bit, and he will actually see where he's going at some point as well. Right up on top of the mountain, he'll see the temple that sits up there. Now, is this the first move by Lamprey to see who's going to come out to play? There's the two that, look how quickly the peloton pull those two back. There's only one man versus the rest now. Once the pressure came off, they simply locked up there. little bit of change of leadership too at the front here now. It looks like Team Sky are beginning to push on. Phil Dignam, but this would all be for David Lopez, who is just in our picture there, I think. 3 minutes, he was third rather last year. He knows this climb well. This is where he got his third place finish the next day in Beijing. So he too is also going to give it a good shot. First 4 riders last year are all in the race again this year. And they all know what this hill is like. Now still one man ahead. There he is, living in his own silent world on the climb of Maofeng. Front of the peloton there, looks as though TJ Van Garderen may have come up towards the front. Riders all just checking everybody that moves forward now to see who is actually launching the attacks. This is Filippo Bazzato who's dropping off the back here from Lampre. Riders just having to just find their way home. That was also Boris Valle, who is in that lead group, also gone through the field now. Might be making another reunion with Graham Brown shortly, as now we've got the Lotto Belisol team starting to make a move at the front. Well, this again is a very, very brave attackman. This is the problem for Dan Martin and the riders. They're going to be constantly attacked by other riders here who feel that they have a chance of victory. Too sure who this is. It might be Geert Dokst, who's gone clear of the field. There's no reaction from the field as yet, so I presume it's a rider, and he's coming up on Vermont. Vermont's looked over and seen him coming. He's got any legs left to try and go with him. 2 of them against the rest. I think he also saw the pack just behind him. He's trying to lift up the speed a little bit because this boy's going to go straight by him if he gets half a shot. And no, he can't alter the pace here. There's no reaction from the field as yet. But they've got everybody that matters back together, and now it's going to be one-on-one as the climb stiffens. We snake our way right around this mountain here, around the valleys. It's just twists and turns. We'll see the temple right on the top, way up in the sky at some point. Well, we still haven't got an absolute ID, but looking at the ride, it might be Tosh van der Sonde who's actually gone away, the first leader in the King of the Mountains. Vermont is now back in the pack. Peloton now preoccupied here with one other rider up front. He's got a gap, but now the line is being pulled out again, so there is a reaction coming, and look at the size of the peloton. It is heavily reduced. Well, after all that, it's Louis Vervaeke who's gone clear here. It's a very brave move by Vivek. He sits in 34th place overall. He's 25 seconds off the race lead. A 10-second win bonus means he needs to finish only 15 seconds in front, which is about what he's got right now. And so at some stage they're going to have to start the battle amongst themselves to bring him back. Another youngster in the race, and this is really a very, very brave move. He joined Lotto Belisol only on the 1st of July this year, this rider. Not the best stylist when he gets out of the saddle, but he's very effective. He's never won a professional race yet, but then he's only been a pro for a few months, and he's signed with the team for the next 2 years, which is normal when you're a young professional. Didn't finish the recent Tour of Lombardy, by the way, which was just before he flew here. I don't think it was very surprising, but he is a good climber. But whether he can climb at this speed with the peloton snapping at his heels, that's another matter. He got 3rd place overall in the King of the Mountains for the Tour de l'Avenir, which was a race in France this August. And it's unusual to find a Belgian who can really climb big mountains too. Lucien Van Impe, probably one of the best exponents from Belgium at that, long since retired. Anyway, he's back in the pack now, Louis Vivek, and a very brave move too. Now, is all the work being put up by Julien Vermont going to come to any fruition here? Certainly got the riders on the front to continue the pacemaking, so they've still got a plan here, Omega Pharma Quick-Step. So the field is now all together, and they're going to have to attack if they are going to take that jersey away from Philippe Gilbert. He's still in this group, so they need more than just the win bonus at the moment. Need a little bit of space, not a lot. Second would do for some of them. Pacemakers here continue to stick to the guns, that's for sure. The second blue jersey just at the end of the line in our picture there is Dan Martin. Hejjedal is the teammate who's in the line trying to contribute to the pace. Now you get some idea what's happening at the back. One by one, the riders are unshipping here. This peloton is getting quite small just now. Jetkov is the rider hanging on at the back for Katusha. The one man they're trying to keep up front is Sergei Chernetsky, still there. And interestingly enough, Dan Olympia of Onica Green Edge is still there. Well, there's a sad sight, and he clearly hasn't got the form of a year ago when he was romping to victory on this climb. Last year's final winner, Benyat in Sausti, lost 18 minutes on the first day, caught off in the wrong end of a big split in the peloton, along with TJ Van Garderen, significantly so, and now dropped on the climb, which was so kind to him 1 year ago. This looks to me as though we might have Ryder Hejjedal now launching an attack at the front to try and draw the sting of the others. No reaction yet. Hejjedal. Still remember, a dangerous man. Now everybody's watching his teammate Martin, but this man's only the same lock time as Martin, 11 seconds off the win. They can't afford to let him go. They've got to keep him in their sights all of the time. Teams using energy to chase another man while Dan Martin stays there, tucked in, watches and waits. Slowly but surely too, this hill gets harder. The lone figure of Ryder Hagedal, the only Canadian to have won the Giro d'Italia, which he did in 2012. Also picked up 2 stage wins in the Vuelta a España. And he was also the first Canadian to do that back in 2009 as well. So he's a bit of a pioneer for Canada, and right now he's trying to draw the sting of the other potential leaders of this race. Jesus Herrada here, the best young rider in the race, 5th overall. Looks to me as though he's suffering quite badly. Got a few bandages there. I don't recall any reports when he fell off, but it looks like he might have done. Now that is a sorry sight, with Herrada now dropping out of the hunt. Hagedal causing a little bit of panic. The roads continue to hurt now as they rise. There's no more respite. They get harder right up to the finishing line. And if anybody can do it, I'll tell you what, Ryder Hagedal can. He is on terrific form. He won the 14th stage after 2 weeks of riding in the Vuelta a España. That's his only win this year. Keeps checking out, and he's seeing nothing back there now, and that's going to give him a little bit of an incentive. He puts his head down. Has tremendous support in North America. Hagedal, a little bit for the road as well. Keep the surface dry. Such a good bike rider. Nearly 34. He will be in December this year, Ryder Hagedal. Comes from Vancouver, which is a great part of Canada to live. It's where the Winter Olympics were held in 2010. Well, this is a great tactic, and if you've got the man to launch an attack like this, it's going to confuse the peloton. They've really got to do something about it, because Hagedal can win the race, and everybody's watching the other man in light blue there. Dan Martin, he'll be feeling that's the plan today. It's looking good for them, because now he just has to hold on to these wheels, go with any moves, knowing that his teammate up front could be winning the race. Just slipping through the gears there, out of the saddle, keep his rhythm going. They're coming closer though. The gap is actually foreshortened by the head-on camera lens, but they're still right in his slipstream. Remember, he's only looking for a 1 second victory over the race to win at the race, because there's a 10-second win bonus. Nice to see Adam Hansen is still holding on in here as well in that red jersey. I haven't seen Philippe Gilbert, and that pack now is down to not many more than 25-30 riders. There he is. We just caught a glimpse of number 34. That was Gilbert, so he's still there. They haven't got rid of him at 5 kilometers to go. Continues to climb all the way to the line. Up on the mountain top now is the Temple, looking down on the race on the lower slopes as it comes right around the mountain towards it. Up, up, up. There's no descent at all now. There's no forgiving part of this climb. It's climbing to a very historic site. Brings together 3 religions here of the Chinese: Taoism, Buddhism and Confucianism, all worshipped at the temple on the top. The autumn tints I mentioned at the start of our program, there they are. The sun unfortunately has come off them, but it has been a stunning day up on the mountain today. The last little town before we go out into the country and swing right round to the left, because right above this rider now is the Temple. Ryder Hagedal has got all the ability here, and he's giving it his best shot. He's only won 7 races in his career, but boy, he's won some big ones. There's the view from the temple down below. That is the village they're passing through at the moment. We have a camera right on the temple wall, but they go way off to our left as they circumnavigate 5 kilometers of road. "14 seconds, that would be enough to win the race with the 10-second win bonus. Well, you've got to take your hats off to a brilliant tactical move here by Garmin Sharp. Everybody's been watching Dan Martin, so they've sent Ryder Hezjedal on the attack, and if he could hold off, they win the race anyway. Martin will be the first to congratulate him, even if he doesn't win the race. He's still climbing away from this group just now. Martin is watching and waiting, and there's an attack gone, and he's gone very, very swiftly. Surely that'll cause some reaction from the lead group, which is down to a handful of riders there. Can't quite make out the colours of that attacking rider. It could have been Ricardo Zeudel of Austria. It is Ricardo Zeudel of Austria who's gone clear. And that's brought Omega Pharma Quick-Step quickly to the fore here. That's a good move by Zeudel. But they've had to react to that. They're waiting for somebody to put in a move so they can all get rid of the nervousness and go for it. Counter move now coming from Omega Pharma Quick-Step. That little reaction, has it closed the gap? May have not closed the gap yet. That looks like it might be Daryl Impey, the white jersey, looking around from Orica Green Edge. The gap has come down to 10 seconds. That's an interesting shot. Two riders chasing. Zeudel and one of the riders who's got on to the group here. It's not Rigoberto Urán from Omega Pharma Quick-Step, and it's not Julien Alaphilippe, so I suspect it might well be probably Peter Seri who's come up there. And we might get some ideas shortly. 3 kilometers still to go. Continues all the way uphill to the line. It's not far now. Ryder Hezjedal has just got to go for as long as possible. Surprising number of riders still together down there. And no attack come yet from expected moves from people like Rui Costa. Yes, it is Peter Seri who's come across. He's been having a very good ride. He's also a very dangerous man at the moment because he sits right up there in 7th place overall. He's in that group, 11 seconds off the victory. 10 seconds for the winner in the time bonus. 6 and 4 for the other two, by the way, in the 1, 2, 3. And Seri is making another move. And this might well be the move that Omega Pharma Quick-Step remarked to me about yesterday when they said, watch out tomorrow when we hope to be in the news again. Well, we'll see. Left is Ryder Hezjedal, Zeudel and Seri. There's a big reaction to hold those two. It must be really hurting him now, Hezjedal. He's such a courageous bike rider. Grits his teeth. He can't afford to save anything now, as long as he can hang on in there, heading for the 2 kilometer marker. Looks as though Seri, driving himself, is catching up just here. Keeps looking around. At times he will see the temple, but it's an awful long way above his head. Well, agonizingly, but it looks as though that little lead group are bringing him back slowly but surely. Or the two, rather. Well, Seri is in the middle, he's been picked up. Orica Green Edge climbing on the left hand side, I think that is Chavez, 2 kilometers to go. Still no move. Dan Martin won't make it now, he's sitting third wheel, it's up to the others to counter, and Martin will go if he can. Has he got enough energy left in that Canadian body of his to take him to the summit? He needs only a 1 second advantage over the field. And do you think that man doesn't know it now? Because Gilbert is going to feel pretty happy with this. Inside 2 kilometers, he's still there, he's gritting his teeth, he's fighting to keep that red jersey. He'll take all the help he can get. He's got the top man alongside him on the team as well, Sam Sanchez, who's going to help him as much as he can. And the adrenaline's going to start now as they get into the lower slopes here with the spectators. Another little nasty kicker there. They're slowly but surely pulling back Ryder Hejjedal, and then what's going to happen? If they get him, everybody's going to think they can win this race. He's hanging on in there. Martin is right up at the front but doesn't want to do anything. But you know, if they do catch him, and they're about to, I wonder if the other rider in blue will accelerate and see who can go with him. Remember that Dan Martin is still 11 seconds behind the race leader. Again, as the situation with Hejjedal, he'd need to win and finish a second ahead. Whoever gets that red tonight wins the race. It is as simple as that. Well, that's the way it should be, but if we stay very, very close, then of course we're going to be looking at the time bonuses on the finish line tomorrow. Samuel Sanchez comes to the front now, the Olympic champion right here in China back in 2008. He's got a for sale notice on him because he needs a contract for next year. And he's had tremendous form these last couple of months of the season. Dan Martin taking second wheel, Chavez just behind him in the white jersey there. No sign of Rui Costa at the moment, I don't think. Yes, there is. There he is. Sitting right in there. In fourth place. Well, this is another fine turn of speed. Now, I would think this is in conjunction following a discussion with Philippe Gilbert, who's now in 5th place, because by setting a pace like this, he's holding off the attacks. And Gilbert, remember, has got a little buffer. Philippe Gilbert riding in 5th place, the leader of this race, and still with the climbers of the race and running out of road to beat him. Dan Martin has got to attack. Now, is it going to be now? For a moment, he was looking very, very frisky. Oh, and yes, it is. Now he goes. Dan Martin goes. Chavez is quickly dodging round Sanchez. Tries to grab after the wheel of Martin. Our motorbike getting caught a little bit there. But this is it now. Martin is going to give it 110%. Chavez, Rui Costa, and even Philippe Gilbert is trying to hang on in there. But this is a sprint by Dan Martin. He's got them gapped. Martin continues. Chavez grits his teeth and tries to hold on. He's also the same time as Dan Martin overall. The youngster on Orica Green Edge, if he gets ahead of Martin on the line, would be ahead of him overall. These two riders at 200 metres. Martin, how has he found this strength here? He's got the gap over the others, but Chavez is in a brilliant position to take the race lead. No, he's looked over his shoulder, a bad sign, he's cracked. Dan Martin wants a second and the finish. As he comes up, he gets it. 1-2, he gets the race lead. What an incredible finish that was. And it came down to the last few hundred meters of the race on the mountain. It was an incredible finish. Take your hat off to Philippe Gilbert as well, because in mixing in with that sort of a climb. But Dan Martin, that was a sprint up the mountain. An incredible ride. And he'll thank Ryder Hejjedal for that. He started the day 11 seconds behind Philippe Gilbert, and Gilbert the first man to congratulate him. That's a gentleman. Because that was an incredible performance by Dan Martin, the magical moment. The minute that Sebastian Chavez looked over his shoulder, he was a beaten man. For a moment, I thought he was going to go round Dan Martin, steal the second, and he would have been the leader tonight. What an amazing situation we've seen there. Well, as the cars filter off the course, we'll catch a word with Dan Martin when he catches his breath back. But when we all wait, of course, for the official timing. But the eye says he had more than a minute's gap. And that's all he requires, starting the day with 11 seconds and with a 10-second win bonus. But no, don't let's forget, though, that and I need to be sure exactly where Gilbert finished, because second and third also get small bonuses. 6 seconds, 4 seconds. It's going to be close. So just waiting to see confirmation, but I think that Gilbert crossed the line in third place, which means he gets a couple of seconds bonus, and we'll have another look now. And you know, it depends on that gap in the end, but there's a real possibility here that Philippe Gilbert has done it. But we've got to wait for all the timekeepers to tell us what really has happened. We'll have a look again. Terrific effort here by Dan Martin when he broke. Chavez quickly onto his back wheel. I don't think Martin sat down again all the way up to the finishing line. It was a desperate sprint to the top of the mountain. And Chavez really hanging on to the back wheel of Dan Martin. But for a moment I thought he was going to come over him. As the finish line approached, then you'll see Chavez look behind him to see where the rest are, and that's always, there it is. And that's a sign he's lost the wheel of Dan Martin. Now his time gap will be absolutely crucial here. Esteban Chavez will be second. There's quite a major gap there. And Gilbert is third. And that may only be about 2 seconds. So for my money, Philippe Gilbert, and he's waiting to find out, he's just sitting there. I think he's still in the red jersey going into the last stage. It's going to be unbelievable. Well, there's confirmation of the time gaps here. Martin, Chavez at 2 seconds with 3 riders there, Da Costa and Gilbert. Then Arredondo in 5th place, Nocentini in 6th, Warren Barguil in 7th, Rigoberto Urán in 8th, Chenetsky rode well to stay there in 9th, and David Lopez, who was 3rd last year, in 10th, this time at 13 seconds. Now, they're waiting. He doesn't believe it. Some are saying you're still the leader. He's not so sure. It's going to be desperately close. Well, I think he knows, and I have just been handed a piece of paper by the race referees to say that Gilbert is still the leader of the race. So if he doesn't know now, I can tell him. That's incredible. He hung on there and he crossed the line. That 3rd place bonus was really extremely crucial to him. Well, that's going to make for an interesting interview when we can sort it out down there. But it looks as though this sprint, which was interminable for Martin, was just not quite good enough. He lost 3 seconds on this climb a year ago. This time he's won by 2 seconds on his nearest rival, and it looks as though it still has not been enough. And Gilbert, I think Gilbert went up and congratulated Dan Martin here as if he believes he is now the leader of the race. But there's the official confirmation. Gilbert leads it by 3 seconds, the same that Dan Martin lost a year ago on this climb. Chavez will be 3rd. Da Costa, the same as he finished a year ago, in 4th place. Sergei Chenetsky rode well to get up into 5th place. Warren Barguil now up into 6th place. Arredondo, and the top 10 completed by Peter Siri. What an amazing day it's turned out to be, and the former world champion here taking it all in his stride. shrug of the shoulders.
Ladies and gentlemen, in a few minutes' time, we will bring you
When you probably hear the voice there of Andrew McCrossan saying that in a few minutes' time we will do the prize presentation, but hopefully before then we will try and catch a word with perhaps Martin and Philippe Gilbert. According to the piece of paper I've been handed and what we've seen on the television, Philippe Gilbert is now in a situation where he can try and win this race tomorrow. Now, I've always said the man that got the red jersey tonight will be the winner tomorrow, but with those seconds, the bonuses tomorrow again are going to prove very, very interesting. The sprinters might find that they've got challenges, some strange quarters tomorrow, to try and upset the rhythm of Gilbert. The bonuses are 10, 6 and 4 seconds on the finish. And of course, tenths of seconds usually are rounded up to whole seconds. As we take a little spin around the beautiful temple up here now. This is the Maofeng temple on top of the mountain. The Emperor of Japan himself came here to worship, and that really did make it one of the most revered temples in China. And way down over the top there is the way the riders came up today. Now let's have a quick spin through the situations. Luka Mecic has regained the lead in the green jersey with his sprint win early on at the start today. He's now a point ahead of Tyler Farrer. Another great battle to be sure tomorrow for who wins the green jersey. And Gilbert, you see, with his third place today, is in third place in that competition as well. In the King of the Mountains, well, this is finished now, so there's our first champion of the 5 days. Mikel Golash has won that for Omega Palmer. Quick step with 44 points. Wavan climbed his way up into second place today. Julien Vermont has climbed his way up into third. And Graham Brown, who will be the first to tell you he can't climb, is going to finish fourth now in that competition. Well, what an incredible finish it was. Martin did his best, but he simply ran out of road there, and Gilbert gritted his teeth and hung on in. There's the move. Martin was chased by Esteban Chavez, who's a new boy on the block, but he's going to be an absolute star. Not quite strong enough yet, but he will be. The Australians have found a good one there. Won stage 6 in the mountains of the Amgen Tour of California in May this year, and then won stage of the Tour of Switzerland in June. And Esteban Chavez, the winner of a very hilly edition of the Tour de l'Avenir back in 2011. That's what attracted Orica Greenedge to sign up the Colombian youngster, 24 years of age. But that look over the shoulder is always the sign you're thinking now second, when you're wondering who's chasing you and how far behind. And Dan Martin pulled away, but the gap was not enough. Right on the back wheel of Chavez came Philippe Gilbert, snatching. If he'd have snatched the next bonus, it would have been curtains, but there's still a little window. There's the stage result. Martin over Chavez, but 2 seconds is crucial. Gilbert catching Chavez right on the line, getting the same time with Rui Costa. The rest are placed at 10 seconds rather. And so that third place gave 4-second bonus to Philippe Gilbert. Well, on top of the mountain here, everything is temporary, and including we haven't got the beautiful big podium we've been having every day, because it's all been brought up the mountain this morning, so it's all off to our left, and we're ready. The autumn tints as the sun comes over the mountain. We'll look at the overall situation once more. Dan Martin, 3 seconds. He lost the race by 10 last year. Chavez, 9 seconds. Ferreira da Costa, to give him his full name, in 4th place as he was a year ago. So there's going to be a scramble perhaps to try and add those bonuses tomorrow, because there's 2 sprints on the course. which carry 3-second win bonuses, and of course the stage winner is 10 seconds. And now the sprinters are going to find different scenarios, I think, tomorrow. It's made for an interesting final day for sure. And Chavez has got a big reward here because he's now the highest placed rider born after January the 1, 1990. So he gets to wear the white jersey on the last day tomorrow as he's highest placed of the youngsters in the overall classification. A big catch for him. So I think we can go down to our first interview. I can't tell you who it's with, but it might be with Dan Martin, or it might be with
Dan, second year in a row. It was a brave effort today. You won the stage, but maybe not the overall.
Yeah, obviously, just missed the overall with Philip hanging on there, but it's the way it is, you know. It's I'm just happy to win a stage. I've been twice second in stages of this race and second overall last year, so it's nice to be able to win a stage.
Just take us through the tactic with Ryder going out. Did that hamper your GC ambitions in the end, because you couldn't obviously chase him down and he hung in for a long way?
No, not at all, because he made the race hard. Everybody had to chase him, and if they stopped chasing, he would have won the stage, you know. So unfortunately, it was headwind on the climb, so it was quite easy sitting on the wheel. I think if it had been tailwind, maybe Ryder would have just ridden away, and maybe it would have been harder for Philip to stay in there. But the way it was quite easy sitting on the wheel, and yeah, that's why I had to wait until the sprint, you know, and just try and get enough time. But obviously Philip was really super strong today. So
what's the emotion for you?
I'm just happy to win the stage. You know, the GC would have been a bonus, but the guys rode incredible all day and all week. In fact, they've been riding incredible, and yeah, it's unfortunate to miss the GC, but yeah, obviously anything can happen tomorrow. But yeah, other than bad luck, I think Philip's got the GC, so I'm still happy with second place. You know.
All right, good effort. A lot of Chinese fans love watching your race here, and it's great to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's been great to be here. It's really, amazing scenery today again. I think everybody's seen how beautiful this country is, and yeah, it's always been a lot of fun, this race. It's my third time here, and I've enjoyed every year, and yeah, it's just a pity it's not continuing, but I'm sure it'll be back in the future.
All right, well on the win today.
Thank you.
Yes, Dan Martin, very modest there, and I think he'll still try tomorrow to see if he can turn the tables on the last day. In a 5-day race, there's no gifts on the final day. They want everything they can race for. He's had a great October, whichever way you look at it, of course, because he won the Tour of Lombardy just before he flew here, which is the last of the major classic races of the year. And now he's set to, at the moment, to finish second again for the second year in this race. He's always ridden well. The previous time he said he's been here 3 times. He won the King of the Mountains the first time he came, and now he's again set first to be on the podium tomorrow. But 3 seconds. 3 seconds when you race. They've raced nearly 700 kilometers now, and at 3 seconds the gap. It is quite amazing at professional levels, it really is. There's a little view of the main temple as we spin around the mountain once more. That's the actual temple just to the right of our picture now, which is connected by a long walk up some stone stairs. Right in the distance, you can't see it now, is the city of Beijing, because these mountains end abruptly and go into plains. Oh, we're waiting now. I don't know if we'll catch a word with Philippe Gilbert. We'll do our best, but the riders are going to feel pretty exhausted after that sprint up the hill, and they will want to start the prize presentation, but if we can we will, while we've got our live coverage going. Gilbert is a remarkable bike rider, he really is. He's 32 years of age now, Philippe Gilbert. He's won 73 bike races. He's hoping tomorrow will be his 74th, but he's been such a great one-day rider, which has been his strength throughout. But if you go back, you know, to his early days, way back, before he was a full professional in 2002, he was the points winner in the Tour de l'Avenir, which is what we used to call the amateur cyclist Tour de France. Well, I can tell you now that we do have an interview with Philippe Gilbert, so let's go and join him.
Philippe, 1 stage to go, 16 seconds on the road, so it's not over yet, but that was a wonderful effort from you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, well, we rode well again as a team, you know, we managed to get the right gap with the breakaway, so we were never in trouble. And then at the end, yeah, we let also the other teams walking, you know, because it was like 2 minutes 20, and we really had to go fast to close this gap. But I knew that if we came in this situation, they will also walk, because everyone had something to win today, and it's what happened. And this made the selection also in all of the teams. So I was not there with, I don't know, like with a team with 3 teammates or something. You know, it's like just like man against man, except for Garmin. And then yeah, in the final, it was very hard. But also Samu Sanchez did a great job, like he did already for me a few times this season. So yeah, I'm very thankful to him because he helped me a lot this season.
How much did you know about the final climb and how difficult it would be? Because it sort of levels out and then it kicks up again.
Yeah, I watched it like 2 times on YouTube because you can find this movie on the internet, and then, you know, I learned something from this viewing, but you know, it's never the same when you rode, you know. But I knew it was like the first 5-6K very hard, and then it's flat a little bit, so with 3-4%. But I did like the whole climb on the big chain ring, so it was okay. And then in the final, yeah, I gave everything in the sprint, and I don't know, it was very hard to close the gap to Martin, but yeah, he did a nice win.
So tomorrow, bonuses on the road still, but the team can control it. And it's not over, but you're in a very strong position to take the overall lead.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the situation is, because I just know now 1 minute ago that I'm still leader.
3 seconds.
3 seconds on Martin, I guess.
Yeah.
And third, I don't know.
Third is Chavez.
Yeah, so
9 seconds.
So I mean, you never know. You can have a technical or something, but I'm in a safe position normally.
What would it mean to you to win the final World Tour race of the year, but also the last edition of the Tour of Beijing?
That's pretty special because yeah, I'm happy to be here. At the beginning, I was thinking, I don't want to go there. You know, it's a long trip. The season has been long, and so on and so on. But now I'm there, and I enjoy the race. It's a nice country when the sky is clear, and no, it's a nice experience.
Well, you'll enjoy the day tomorrow. Tiananmen Square and around the bird's nest. It's a unique experience in cycling.
Yeah, everyone told me this. It's great, and to have this square close on it for us, it's a big experience. It's a little bit like riding on the Champs-Élysées, I think, with the Tour.
All right, we'll go and enjoy the presentation, the red jersey, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yes, I think we can say for the first time this week, a very happy Philippe Gilbert there. Now he knows the overall situation. It took David Colbert to tell him. He knows the 2 riders behind him are not sprinters but climbers, so he will feel a little bit safer now, and he'll have his team work hard tomorrow to try and stop any silly moves. What they will guard against, as he said, a technical problem like a flat tire or, heaven forbid, an accident, then of course he may have to fight back. Chavez here racing to the white jersey as he climbs up into third place overall, but he gets a big target for the youngster here, winning the white jersey, a podium place for him tomorrow. Just took that look to the right and then just kept on going as best he could. You'll see Martin go well clear here, the 2-second margin we'll call it, plus the 10-second win bonus. But then Gilbert right on the back wheel of Chavez, and that was important to give him just that small margin to keep the red jersey. And I'm sure when Gilbert congratulated Martin there, he really thought he'd lost that red jersey. It wasn't the case. There's Arredondo just coming in there as well. So there's still a big battle as well among the sprinters, which could spoil the battle for the red jersey in some ways, because the sprinters need those vital time bonuses which are connected to the sprint points tomorrow, because Tyler Farrer and Luka Mečik are going to be locked together. And let's not forget that a year ago Luka Mečik was the winner of the same stage we are rerunning tomorrow, which will bring the curtain down on the modern history of the Tour of Beijing. 4 years it's been held. 4 years was the length of the contract, and sadly no signs of a renewal there, which is rather sad, because it's really introduced all of these cyclists, and many of us as well, to the mystique of China. And we all know now that just north of Beijing is some beautiful countryside. I can hear the voice of Anthony McCross, and let's go down to the presentation.
女士们、先生们，2014年环北京职业公路自行车赛第4赛段的现场颁奖仪式现在开始。To present the stage winner, we welcome Mr. Shen Ji, Deputy Director of the Beijing Sports Bureau, and Mr. Chen Guochai, Deputy Chief of Montao District. 首先要颁发的是第4赛段赛段冠军，欢迎颁奖嘉宾：北京市体育局副局长陈杰先生，北京市门头沟区常务副局长陈国才先生，欢迎。The winner of stage 4 of the Tour of Beijing, riding for Garmin Sharp, Daniel Martin. 第4赛段赛段冠军来自佳明车队的 Daniel Martin. And so we now present the plate to the race winner and the mascot, of course, to Daniel Martin of Garmin Sharp. 下面有请陈杰先生为获奖车手颁发奖牌。
So Dan Martin did his best. He gets the stage winner's award. He'd be happy with that stage win. Continuing terrific form for the Irishman. His father was a former British champion as well, Neil.
Daniel Martin. 第4赛段冠军熊猫车手来自佳明车队的 Daniel Martin。我们的熊猫来了。
Oh, the panda's been discovered. They were all over the road yesterday, and of course the team of Dan Martin supporting the World Wildlife Fund and the endangered panda.
We're going to move on now to the presentation for the leader of the Tour of Beijing after 4 days. 下面我们要颁发的是个人积分排名第1名红山荣誉。To present the awards, we welcome Mr. Pang Tao, Deputy Director of Mentao Sports Bureau, and Mr. Yang Wen, the Sales Director of UCC. 欢迎颁奖嘉宾：北京市门头沟区体育局副局长庞涛先生 ，UCC 运动自行车行销总监杨文先生，欢迎。Ladies and gentlemen, this Tour of Beijing is a very tight contest, but the red jersey at the end of 4 days, he retains his race leadership from BMC Racing Team, Philip Gilbert.
获得红山荣誉的是今天第3个完赛的，保住了红山的来自 BMC 车队的吉尔伯特。下面有请庞涛先生为吉尔伯特颁发红色领旗衫。
And we thank Mr. Pang Tao as he presents the red jersey back to Philip Gilbert with a fantastic climb up here to the top of
Yanqing Mountain. He stayed in the group all the way and then sprinted in to take the bonuses. We also now present the mascot to him as well. 下面有请杨文先生为获奖车手颁发吉祥物，同时有请颁奖嘉宾获奖车手合影留念。 Please show your appreciation for the leader of the Tour of Beijing with 1 day to go from BMC Racing Team, Philip Gilbert. 红山获得者 BMC 车队吉尔伯特。
Well, we hope the blue skies are over the centre of the city tomorrow when we'll see Philippe Gilbert. Head them away from Tiananmen Square. We'll see all the iconic sights of the centre of the People's Republic, capital of China, Beijing. It's a short ride out to the bird's nest, and when the roads are closed there's no traffic, so you'll do it quite quickly on a bicycle, and once you're there we'll complete a number of circuits before the finish, and Gilbert will just watch those riders closest to him overall and try not to get too mixed up in the fight among the sprinters.
And the new leader of the green jersey, riding for Giant Shimano, the winner of stage 1 of the Tour of Beijing, Luka Metjets.
Yes, and for Luka Metjets, this has been a big return to the top for him today. And I think it's something he really wants to win tomorrow, but shoulder-to-shoulder battle, he only leads his competition by a point.
Luka with the green jersey, who's already won the red jersey. the roads of Beijing tomorrow.
下面有请阿兰·罗菲先生为获奖车手颁发吉祥物。
And now we ask Mr. Alan Rumpf to present the mascot to Luca. Ladies and gentlemen, the leader of the green jersey, signifying the leader of this race on points from Giant Shimano, Luca Medgeds.
冲刺王来自喜马诺车队的梅兹格奇再次祝贺。
Congratulations to Luca, and thank you very much to our presenters. We're going to move on now to the King of the Mountains in the Jackaroo red and white jersey.
下面要颁发的是爬坡积分排名第1名爬坡王原点山荣誉。
And to present the awards, we welcome Mr. Hai Cheng-wen, the director of BSCAC, and Mr. Cheng Xiao, the general manager of Chou Yu Transport Equipment.
欢迎颁奖嘉宾，北京市体育竞赛管理中心主任海振文先生，以及九裕交通器材昆山有限公司总经理陈成孝先生，欢迎。
The King of the Mountains, after 4 days of racing, riding for Omega Pharma Quickstep, Mikhail Goash.
Yes, and the one winner we can be sure of, for there's no more mountains left in this race, is a victory for Mikhail Goash for Omega Pharma Quickstep and for his country Poland. They've had a great year, the Polish cyclists. They've also got the King of the Mountains with Rafael Majka in the Tour de France this year.
Please show your appreciation then for the King of the Mountains after 4 days of racing from Omega Pharma Quickstep, Mikhail Goash.
再次把掌声送给今天的原点山获得者，来自快步车队的格瓦斯，再次祝贺。
Congratulations to Mikhail. After 4 days of racing, there are no mountains on tomorrow's stage. As we move on now to present the most aggressive rider on stage 4 of this year's event.
接下来要颁发的是昌河汽车感斗奖。
And to present the most aggressive rider of today's stage, we welcome Mr. Peng Li Feng, Director of Communication Department of Mentao Gao, and Mr. Alan Rushton, the race consultant.
I would imagine that this has been awarded to Julian Vermont, the last to be caught at the breakaway.
以及全球自行车运动促进中心竞赛顾问阿兰·拉斯顿先生，欢迎。
The most aggressive rider on today's stage, the last man standing as we approach the mountain from Omega Pharma Quickstep, Julien Vermont.
获得昌河汽车感斗奖的是今天一直领骑在最前面的来自快步车队的费尔莫特。下面有请彭立峰先生为获奖车手颁发奖盘。
And so we present the plate as the most aggressive rider. Mr. Peng Li Feng presents the plate, and Mr. Alan Rushton will present the Mascots Award.
Alan Rushton, who's met Julien Vermont before, and Alan, by the way, helps lay down the course route of the Tour of Beijing and has done since inception.
Julien Vermont.
感斗奖获得者，今天表现勇猛的快步车队费尔莫特，再次祝贺。
Congratulations, Julien. A long day in the saddle as we approached the final climb of the day. He was left on the attack. We're going to move on now to our final presentation before we welcome all the riders back. And we're now going to present the best young rider in this year's race.
接下来要颁发的是最佳年轻车手，也就是新人王的荣誉。
And to present the awards, we welcome Mr. Cheng Ji, the Deputy Director of the Beijing Sports Bureau, and Mr. Du Weidong, the President of Jackaroo.
欢迎颁奖嘉宾北京市体育局副局长陈杰先生，以及捷酷北京体育服装有限公司董事长杜卫东先生，欢迎。
And with a fantastic performance on the final mountain today, the white jersey changes hands as we present the best young rider in the Tour of Beijing with 1 day left to go from Orica Green Edge, Esteban Chavez.
He's a young man who always smiles, and today he's every reason to smile even bigger than usual because he's now the best young rider in this race for riders born after the 1st of January 1990, when he qualifies because his birthday is the 17th of January 1990.
And so we present the best young rider to Esteban Chavez. He pulls on the jersey, and we also present the mascot award to him too.
下面有请杜卫东先生为获奖车手颁发吉祥物。
Ladies and gentlemen, the best young rider after 4 stages, Esteban Chavez of Orica Greenedge.
再次把掌声送给今天新人王白衫获得者绿刃车队查韦斯。
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our presentation.
And as he walks off there, he rides for the Orica Greenedge team, which is a team from Australia, and the ambassador of Australia is entertaining members of the team tomorrow night at a special function at the Australian Embassy here in Beijing, and I'm sure they'll take along Sebastian Chavez and introduce him to the Australians, because he really has got a great future. Had a bad crash last year when he wasn't part of the Australian team, lost most of the year, but the Aussie saw something in him and they signed him up, and he certainly delivered this year. 2 wins for them, and also today looking as though he's laid the foundation to become the best young rider, and a 3rd place finish in this race when we finish in the city of Beijing tomorrow.
At the Bird's Nest tomorrow from Tiananmen Square. Thank you to all of you for braving the cold at the top of the mountain. We may see you tomorrow for day 5.
So
of
the final
this year's race.
goodbyes there from Anthony McCrossan as he now heads off the mountain down to the city of Beijing, as all the riders do at this moment in time. Finally they will find the capital city, because until now they've stayed at Yanqing and generally away from the race, as they've come in every day. So as the riders head off the mountain, and it is getting quite chilly now that the sun has left us here on top of the mountain, I'll say goodbye, and we'll see you all in Beijing tomorrow. Goodbye.